Hey guys, so it's been a long time since my last video and a lot has happened. Oh my gosh, I don't even really know where to start. So basically I'll start back with, we are moving back to Illinois. That is going to be the subject of this video, and I know that a lot of people are going to be asking questions, and everybody will want to know why and what happened, and that's kind of why I'm making this video, is to mass explain everything that has happened and why we are moving back to Illinois. So I will start from the beginning, and if I've told you this, or if you've already known this somehow, or maybe I mentioned it in my other videos, then you'll just get a little recap, I guess. Okay, so when we moved here, we had a really hard time finding a place to live, just because the city is so massive, and finding a good area that we fit into, and then just finding somewhere that was affordable and that was accessible to his work, and all of that was just a lot. So when we finally found somewhere, we kind of just jumped on it and moved right in. Problems started with our apartment from day one. When we went to move in, our AC wasn't working. The entire apartment wasn't cleaned at all. Like, nobody had came in and cleaned it from the previous tenant. It was disgusting and dirty, and there was black mold in the fridge and in the toilet and on the toilet seat of the bathroom. And that started basically this very long just decline of what has brought us to moving back to Illinois. So there was the realtor group that we went through to contact the listing and to see the listing and everything else. And then there was the actual owner of the individual apartment, and then there is the building management group, which is, they basically manage the entire building. So when there's a problem, our first step would be to contact the owner. Well, the owner lives in a different country, and the realtor group is friends or something with them, so they were kind of our liaison. So we'd have to go to them, and they would then basically, I guess at their own discretion, decide whether the issue was with the apartment or with the building itself. And the first set of issues, which was the mold and the uncleanliness, was obviously the apartment. So they had it cleaned, or attempted, I guess, and they had someone come and fix the AC, and that moved our move-in date probably about 2 weeks before the apartment was, cleaned, and the AC was up and running. And then we had our furniture delivered, but then the realtor decided that the mold in the fridge was not mold and it was dirt, and he refused to basically do anything about it. And we bought a mold test kit and proved that it was very, very much indeed mold. And then he replaced it with a fridge from a different unit, which was old. It wasn't like a new fridge or anything, but it was fine. We were like, okay, this is whatever, we just have a bumpy start, we will just be fine. So everything was okay for a little while, and then we were still staying at his mom's at this point. We had some of our furniture delivered, but we still had to go buy a bed, and we just weren't ready to move in. Well, I think our bed was getting ready to be delivered, and we come back in the apartment, and our bathroom has brown water covering the floor. It was down the walls, it was dripping out of the ceiling, and it was all over the floor, and it was just absolutely horrible. Well, we called the realtor, and he comes in, and he's like, oh, I can't believe this. Everything started off really nice. They were, nice about it. Well, he contacted the management group because it was coming from the ceiling. So they had to check the floor above us. We were on the first floor, so there's like 2 floors above us. Well, apparently the floor of the 3rd floor, every time they flushed their toilet, apparently like the sewage was leaking into the ceiling of the 2nd floor, and it was soaking the floor of the 2nd floor. So eventually that floor had bottomed out, and the only thing that was like separating the ceiling and the 2nd floor's bottom floor was like just our ceiling. Like there was nothing else. So it was like just like basically pouring, and it just like, I'm surprised it didn't completely collapse. So they fixed it, and they came and they cleaned a little bit of it up. They didn't wipe the walls down. They didn't like actually dry the ceiling at all, which is like a huge problem for mold. I don't know what they did above us, but the only thing they did was there was like above our door, it was like starting to like, the drywall was coming off because of the water, and they patched it. They just patched it, and they never painted it or anything. So, you know, that was another issue, but, you know, we moved on. You know, like, we just spent a lot of money to come down here, and we signed a lease. So what could we do? Well, after that, things kind of calmed down for a little while, and then every time that it would rain, no, back up, the dishwasher. So then the dishwasher, like every time it would cycle through, it wouldn't really clean the dishes, but then it would like leak underneath, like basically underneath the dishwasher, our floor would be like this huge puddle of water every time we were in the dishwasher. So I contacted them about that, and they had it replaced, like no questions asked, and it was like really nice that they were just like, okay, we'll get you a new one, no problem. So that was fine. And then about the same time, our toilet was leaking. Like when you flushed it, the water from the toilet would just saturate the floor, and like we had the blue stuff in our toilet water, so the water was blue, so it was staining the white floor, and I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. So they called the plumber, and the plumber came and had to like reset the toilet. Like they picked it up and reset it, and the plumber specifically told me that the toilet needed to be replaced and that he would be back tomorrow with a new toilet, and that this will do for now. Well, he never came back. Apparently, I'm assuming he said that he had to get it approved through the owner, and I guess the owner was like, no, screw them, or whatever. So we never got it, but we hadn't had any issues, so it wasn't a big deal. Well, then everything was okay for a while. Then it started raining, and our ceiling, our bedroom window would leak. And we have like this really massive corner bedroom window, and it would like just like pour down water. And it started raining really bad one night. I think it was like a tropical storm. Water was not only coming from the window, but it was coming from the ceiling. There were like little holes in the crack of the ceiling where the ceiling and the wall meet. It was dripping through there. And I was like, man, you know, that sucks. So I was getting ready to kind of discuss that with our realtor, and then I don't know how, it was by pure accident, I had walked over to our window in our front room, and when I stepped on the floor, water came out of the floor, and I was like, wait, what? And it was just mind-boggling. We had Veda's toy box over there, and the bottom of her toy box, and I had like a little blanket over it, like a decorative blanket, was soaked, and it was just, it smelled like mildew. It was terrible. And like I cleaned all of that up, and then that lasted for probably about a week of every time we stepped on the floor in that area, water would just come up. I mean, I have videos, it's unbelievable. And the day that it happened, I had contacted the realtor and the management group, and I was like, hey, like I have water coming up from my floor, like I have a baby, like she's crawling around, she wants to crawl on the floor, and I can't have this. Like it was slowly starting to leak more and more water towards like our furniture and our couch. And a week went by and nobody did anything. So the water had dried up, and finally our realtor had wanted to come and view the damage, and he had came, and he had determined that it was a building problem and it was not their issue. So he had contacted the owner of the management group, because I had discussed that I had been contacting our building, like the building manager, for a week now, and nothing was being done. So he went ahead and said he contacted the building owner. And about another week goes by and we don't hear anything, nothing's being done. In the meantime, both areas of the floor, it's like wood, and the wood has like bubbled up, and it's like busting. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just like bubbling up, and it's like whelping. There's like huge like bubbles where the water had like soaked into the wood, and it just smells like atrocious in both the living room and the bedroom. And it was just crazy because the tiles, like they were like wooden like tiles that you like kind of like piece together. They were actually replaced before we moved in. They were different colors from the rest of the wood, and we kind of were like, okay, well they just whatever, it was just scratched or whatever, they just replaced it. We didn't know that there was any issues, but now it makes sense that the places where they replaced the tile is the places where water's coming up. So this has been a problem long before we moved in, and we only moved in June. So this is over the course of like 3 months. And so basically it's been like 2.5 weeks, and we finally get a hold of, or he finally gets a hold of the owner, and the owner says we're having someone coming out there by the end of this upcoming week, which would make it 3 weeks, and he's gonna fix everything. And I had messaged back, I said, well, what about our floor? And he never responded. There was never any response, never any communication with me about fixing our floor, drying out our floor, doing anything. At this period of time, there is water soaked into the wood underneath the floor, and it smells. And since Florida is so humid, like the possibility of mold is just, it's a very great chance that this floor is going to mold if something's not done. Well, we had noticed that the hallway, so we're like at the very end of the hallway, but the beginning of the hallway was seeping water from the floor as well. It was carpeted, and you could see like the really dark spot of where the water, and it started off relatively small, and when you stepped on it, you could see the water come up from the carpet, like the carpet was saturated. So we go down to the basement because we're under the basement. Our laundry room was in the basement. And we go down to the basement, and you can see like the wood from the like right where it's leaking. You can see the wood like caving in, like, well, caving in like this, and it's like just dripping, and there's this huge puddle, and there are pipes everywhere, so it has to be a pipe leak. So we're like, okay, whatever. Well, we go over to where our leak is in our room, because like the windows align, and we knew where our was, and there's water pouring down from our leak, like down the wall, and it's like making a huge puddle, and we're like, okay, there's definitely like some pipes busted or something. So I send all of this video footage and everything to both people, and nobody has ever responded. They had came and like shop vacuumed the water up from the carpet, and I guess they thought that was gonna fix the problem. That's the only thing that's ever been done to date, is them shop vacuuming the apartment. It's been over a month now.
Three different times.
Yeah, so they've done it about 3 different times, shop vacuuming the water. And it's to the point now to where there is mold. Like there is, it started at like a little spot, and now the water is all the way like from like the hallway all the way down 3 steps, because there's steps going up into the hallway, because there's a basement below us. And it is molded. Like there is mold growing that I have videos and pictures of the whole spot. There's this big like just mold spot, and when you walk through it, there's still water. They just vacuumed it up like last week, and it's water. They did it again today. So that's their solution, is that they're just shop vacuuming the water. They're not going up and fixing it. I did go up and see underneath what was going on, and they have literally just put putty over the floors like caving in, and they just put putty on it, and it's still wet, like it's still leaking. The water is dripping like crazy, and it's like, what's going on here? Like they're not doing anything at all. So that's like a huge issue. That's like issue number 1. So then when we are faced with this issue, we have more than enough proof to basically be like, hey, we're getting out of here. This is not safe for our child. And Veda ended up being sick for about 2 weeks, and I don't know if it's related or unrelated but the risk is too great for me to assume that it wasn't unrelated, because I was sick, and then with my mom and my sister visiting, within the first couple days of them being in the apartment, they were sick. And prior to that, Kyle was sick, and Kyle never gets sick. So it was just very odd that right around the time that you could really start to smell the mold and mildew, everybody got sick. And my headaches have been getting pretty intense. That's another thing, is that my headaches have been just very intense and terrifying. And I ended up going to the ER last night, and I waited. It was just the worst experience, like, absolutely ever. I waited in the ER for about 3.5 hours before even seeing anybody, a nurse, a doctor, nobody. Like, they took us to our room and we sat there, like, in silence. We didn't have anybody come in and say nothing to us. And finally, when I was like getting ready to say, hey, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, we gotta go. They came in, and he like looked at me really quick. He like looked at my eyes, and, you know, he like touched my neck. He's like, oh, it's probably just migraines. I'm gonna refer you to our neurologist. Call them first thing in the morning. He's like, I'm sure it's nothing. Just, you know, just call them. You know, you just need to call them. Okay. So I called them in this morning. They're like, okay, well, you know, like, I told him I was in the ER last night, like, I need to be seen. He gave me a referral to you guys. He told me to call first thing in the morning so I can get in. And she's like, okay, well, our next available appointment is February 20th, 2019. I'm like, oh, okay then, so good thing I'm not dying. So that's that, I guess. And, you know, there's just so many other factors that pull into us moving home, but those are probably the biggest issues, is just our apartment. We don't really have anywhere to go. We have to leave this apartment, and we paid $5,000 to move into this apartment, and rent is so ridiculously expensive in Miami that for us to move into another apartment, we'd have to pay another $5,000. And we just moved in this one 3 months ago. We don't have that kind of money to just drop again. Like, who has that kind of money to just be, you know, dropping $5,000 every couple months? Like, it took us so long and so much effort to get down here, and now that we're down here, we're basically like, you know, like, what are we gonna do? And that, along with the combined issues of not being able to get into the doctor fast enough. I mean, appointments are well into next year. If you have an emergency, you need to go to the ER. Even if it's not a crazy emergency, that's the only way that you're going to be able to get in to see a doctor, is by going to the ER. And even then, you're waiting for hours and hours and hours for a 10-minute visit. And I haven't even really been able to get Veda to go anywhere. Like, it's just been horrible. She was sick, and I was like trying to find a doctor to get her into, and it was just impossible. I mean, we found doctor's places, and they were like 2 hours north, like way north, like in Palm Beach Gardens or whatever. Like, it was like 2 hours north of here just for a damn doctor's appointment. Of course, there's so much more to this, and I will get into it. I'll definitely get into it probably at a later date about why I'm not a city person. But as of right now, our main concerns for moving back home is just that we really don't have any choice. The crazy thing is, you know, we were kind of waiting it out and making sure that Kyle was going to be able to have his job back at SAH, which he is, and we are so very, very thankful for that. And I know Kyle's really excited to go back to work there, because, I mean, he loved his job, and, you know, it's nice to go back there. But we had kind of planned on maybe waiting like a month or so before we had come down, dependent upon when they were needing Kyle back. We were kind of just like, we weren't in a big rush because we knew that we had enough evidence to get out of this apartment, and you know, we were just kind of laying it low for a while. Well, I got an email this morning from our building manager that they're fumigating our building in 2 weeks. And in the email, they say that we have to be out for 3-4 days. We have to be completely out of the building, and we have to empty out our fridge and our freezer. We have to empty any kind of food that is not sealed, has to be out of the apartment. So pancake mix, coffee, anything that has been opened has to be out of the apartment. Shampoo, any kind of body care, you know, shampoo, conditioner, soap, toothbrush, toothpaste, contact, all that stuff has to be removed. Bedding has to be removed, and then all of Veda's play toys have to go. Like, they're tinting our building, and we have to give them our key, and they have to open up all the doors. So like every part of this chemical is going to be touching everything that we own. Our couch, Veda chews on the couch, like she leans forward and like chews on the couch. She crawls all the time with her hands and then puts her hands in her mouth. We have rugs on the floor. We have all my clothes, Veda's clothes. So like we literally have to basically move all of our shit out for 3 days, because we're not just a single person living in this apartment who doesn't give a crap. We have a baby to care for. Like, she's not even a year old. So we just got this notice today that in 2 weeks we have to evacuate our building for 3 or 4 days. I can't remember what it was. And we have to take all this stuff with us. We have to empty out our fridge. Are you kidding me? We have to empty out our freezer. We have to empty out all of our food. Like, I'm like, are you kidding me? So we're going to be moving back a lot sooner than I had originally thought, which is fine. It just kind of puts a lot of pressure on everybody in terms of packing up and getting ourselves down there. But that is just kind of what pushed me to make this video so quickly. So that is what's happening, and I hope that that answers enough questions, because I know that a lot of people are going to be wondering. But we had kind of planned on maybe waiting like a month or so before we had come down, dependent upon when they were needing Kyle back. We were kind of just like, we weren't in a big rush because we knew that we had enough evidence to get out of this apartment, and you know, we were just kind of laying it low for a while. Well, I got an email this morning from our building manager that they're fumigating our building in 2 weeks. And in the email, they say that we have to be out for 3-4 days. We have to be completely out of the building, and we have to empty out our fridge and our freezer. We have to empty any kind of food that is not sealed, has to be out of the apartment. So pancake mix, coffee, anything that has been opened has to be out of the apartment. Shampoo, any kind of body care, you know, shampoo, conditioner, soap, toothbrush, toothpaste, contact, all that stuff has to be removed. Bedding has to be removed. Veda's clothes. So like we literally have to basically move all of our shit out for 3 days. That is just kind of what pushed me to make this video so quickly. So that is what's happening, and I hope that that answers enough questions, because I know that a lot of people are going to be wondering what happened, why are you moving back home, and I will see you guys shortly.